Let's do some drums on a different type of sample. This lo-fi one that I really like here. Let's listen to it a little bit first. Now the next concept we're going to learn for the drums is called swing. Swing is when the rhythm is divided unequally. You know, if I kind of just run my brush tool here, you can see that every single note is equal distance from each other. But for swing, we kind of create this uneven long, short rhythm. So it goes long, so this note is longer, then this note is shorter, and it kind of repeats like that. It's definitely best to just hear it by itself. So we're gonna just play some 16th notes like this. And this is how it sounds without any swing, right? And now I'm going to incorporate some swing into it. So I'm just going to move this dial up right here, and that's going to determine the strength of the swing. So I'm going to slowly move it up. It's really apparent now. Really, really exaggerated there. Sometimes in our music, we want to go for a live and realistic sound. And incorporating something like swing brings an entirely different groove. Let's put some really simple drums first so we can put the snare on the 2 and the 4. And I'm just going to put the kick right there. I'm going to slowly move the swing knob up and listen to how the groove changes over time. Okay, so this is really straight. And that's with some swing. And the swing can be applied on different instruments. So I'm going to put it on the kick. I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to bring the velocity down so it's not too noticeable. I'm going to bring the swing down a little bit more too. For these drums, I want them to sound as human and realistic as possible. So a really good technique is to play with the velocities. Because if I'm a real drummer, I'm not hitting that hi-hat at the exact same power every single time. Some notes are going to be stronger or weaker than others. And I really want to mimic that on my DAW right now. So I'm listening to it right now, and I'm looking for points of emphasis. So I want the hi-hats to be strongest on those big downbeats. So I'm going to bring all these down. And that's already a much better groove. I'm going to actually bring this one up in the middle. And let's hear that. I'm going to bring it down. It's a little too much still. Maybe we can do some fun little pulses. Maybe like a little pickup note there. That's nice. Yeah, and this is so much better, you know, it just brings so much life into your beat by just making a couple velocity changes. Now, another thing we can do is delay our sounds a little bit, and this adds to the feel and the swing of the song. And pretty much all we're going to do is just move our notes slightly forward a bit. Not so much that it's changing the inherent pattern, but just enough so that it's lagging behind the kick and the snare. I'm not going to do it on the piano roll because it looks a bit messy, but in FL Studio, they have a shift knob that does the exact same thing. I'm going to use my ear again and just listen for that sweet spot. So that's too much, because I'm losing the feel now. It's a little too sloppy, but around here, I think this is a good spot. Still keeps the inherent groove, but it's a much more human feel. You might not want to do it on the kick and the snare because that acts as your metronome, and once you mess up the metronome, then the whole beat kind of gets out of place. But for any other instrument, it's fair game. Let's do a little bit of layering. I'm gonna layer this snare with something a bit high frequency. So I'm gonna layer this snare with this tambourine right here. Because the tambourine is much higher frequency, the snare is low frequency, so when we play them together, they should mesh really well and kind of fill out that space a bit more. And I'm just gonna put it right on top of it. Okay. I'm gonna just leave it on the second snare just to kind of vary up the rhythm a bit. The sample's a little long, so I'm going to bring the out down. I'm going to make it a bit quieter, and I'm going to move the shift up so it kind of separates itself from the snare even more. I think that's a good spot. We can apply similar techniques on the hi-hats to other sections. So let's say we wanted to put in a shaker. I'm going to copy and paste the hi-hats, and maybe we're just creating a little bit of variation in our drums. So I'm going to bring the shift up. I think I want them to play at the exact same time, so I'm going to vary up the rhythm a bit. So I'm going to have it more spaced out. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. Let's listen to the hi-hat and shaker by itself to really get it to blend well together. I can do some panning like in the last beat, so I'm going to move the shaker over to the left and the hi-hat to the right. I'm going to reduce the amount of swing on the shaker individually by just bringing this knob down. Actually, it doesn't sound bad with no swing at all, but I might just put a little bit. Now they're not playing at the exact same time. I'm actually going to look for a different shaker sample. Yeah, I like that a lot. Those were a couple advanced rhythm techniques that you should try out in your next beat. Once again, you probably shouldn't put every single technique into one beat. Now, it's important to know that some of these techniques won't work well together. A really trappy snare roll might not work with those swinging hi-hats. It's important that your drums are consistent with each other. Experiment with a couple different combinations and see which works best for you. But if you practice this a lot, you're gonna get a good feel of what works and what doesn't.